Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prizepicks.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by Prizepicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. And we're presented by CLNS Media. Make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. Lots of great podcasts, Poke the Bear, Pucks with Hags, Bruins Beat throughout the summer and the season. 6 in total per week, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. Or if you don't like to look at us, you don't want to see us, make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm feeling pretty good. I think as should you, considering I don't know what other people are predicting for months on end, but I think the Bruins might be listening to our podcast because they're all like, "Oh man, like looking ahead of time, like once we inevitably get the number 7 pick, what are we gonna do, guys?" And someone probably listened to our podcast and like, everyone, hold your horses here. Let's listen
It was
to these
Don
two
Sweeney.
educated.
It was Don Sweeney.
It's like, I need everyone to shut the hell up. Listen to these two really smart guys. You guys heard of this guy, Jimmy Hagens?
Jimmy Hagens? You heard of him? Slim Jim?
Everyone's like, who are you talking about? Who is this guy? Looked up, they're like, down the road, if we happen to have, if he's in our crosshairs, we're getting this guy. And what do you know? They listen to us, Evan. We're pretty smart, I would say. Not to be too arrogant here, but we're kind of the shit when you think about it.
I don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what you get when you guys listen to us. You get who the Bruins are going to pick months and months and months and months in advance. I was stunned. I mean, I said to you, I said it a number of times on here, like, I don't think he's falling to 7. That's why I didn't predict him. That's why I you, to your credit, did. You were like, no, I'm sticking to my guns. I think they take James Hagens.
Fully expecting to be wrong, by the way. Let me show you behind the stage of what was going on. I was like, I fully expected this not to happen. But
well, what's so funny to me is, like, I was obviously live with Carl for the pick, and I went back and watched, and Carl like freaks out when it's Porter Martone at 6, and I'm like, oh my god, they can get James Hagens, and he goes, you know what this means, right? And I'm like, it means they ain't gonna take him. And I really was like, they can't take him. They're not gonna take him. Like, I can't imagine that's what they do. It's unlike them. I was preparing to be let down because I think everybody knew who we both wanted badly in this draft. And then, whenever you hear Adam Sandler / Happy Gilmore say, like, from Boston College, I'm like, oh my God, they actually took him. And I was looking back, I'm like, was I like too crazy on the live stream? Did I go too nuts? But then I was like, when you think about the months of talking about it that you and I went through, of like, no, this is the guy you want, but he's never gonna be there. So what are we doing? And then he falls to you. Like, again, and I'll say this, it's the most unified I've seen Bruins fans in a long time. It felt like the first good thing to happen to them in a relatively long time. Like, it worked out. They got boned by the draft lottery, and then you get Hagens at 7. Like, that's a franchise altering move that you get James Hagens at number 7. I can't get over that.
And it's not just, I think, Bruins fans, where you look at a tangible guy with his pedigree, with his track record, with his skill set. I think Bruins fans who have been longing for a blue chip prospect that especially fits an area of need, you have that in Hagens, but even just, I think, national writers, right? I think Elite Prospects gave the Bruins an A for the draft. A lot of other outlets gave them A-, B+. And that's factoring in, like, they took some like reaches / projects in the draft as well. They're clearly banking on kind of high upside types of players, but even with those kinds of swings on some of those types of prospects they had, having someone like James Hagens at where you got him changes the whole complexion. And I think you look at just what he brings in that skill set, to have him there at 7, and especially when you just look at what he can bring this team. He kind of, I was mentioning this on Poke the Bear with Ty Anderson, of it's not the best comparison because it's going to put unnecessary or, a bad comparison as to who the players are. But like when Jason Tatum dropped,
I was thinking this the other day.
And I'm not saying that James Hagens is going to be a top 5 player in the league, but like Tatum entered Duke, right, as like a 5-star unreal guy. And he was really good at Duke, but he didn't have like a 25 point per game type of like elite season. And so you're like, all right, well, this guy, he's still going to be really good, but like maybe just going to be like a 20-7 guy in the NBA. And like he can drop a little bit. There's a bunch of small forward wings that can do that spot, right? Like let him drop a little bit. And then after 1 year at with the Celtics, I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, I can't believe he fell to 3. And I think you look at like the flaws with Hagen's game, right? And like, listen, there's I don't even call them red flags. There are concerns, right? Like,
There are weaknesses.
yeah, he's not going to be the biggest guy, even though he's already 190 at 5'11", but he's not going to be the most imposing player, right? So that's valid. Did you want him to have a more productive year at BC? Sure, of course. I think everyone, when you look at just his body of work at the development program, at some of these international competitions, I think a lot of people were expecting a 50-point season probably. And when he didn't do that, oh, that's disappointing, I guess. And I think that maybe starts the snowball effect of like, well, what went wrong with him? Maybe, well, he is 5'11". Like, there's that knock against him. And like, he was kind of passing a lot and deferring to guys. Like, does he got the it fact? Like, it starts kind of the opening the door of the criticism. But like, I feel like same with how like Tatum, I think, immediately showed what he could be in his first year with the Celtics. Like, I feel like Hagen's going to go back to BC, be a 50-point guy, be a Hobie Baker finalist, most likely, barring injury or something else. And immediately the 6 teams in front of you and a lot of the rest of the NHL is going to be like, how the hell did that guy fall to 7? And I'm not saying that he's going to be like the Tatum equivalent. If he's going to be an 80-point guy as a rookie in the NHL and he's going to be a top 5 center. But I think you have your Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller type of player. And that's just like setting like the standard expectations for what he could be. Maybe he's more. Like, at the end of the day, you got a damn good player who for years was viewed as the top player in this class, who has had multiple seasons of shredding opponents on the ice, and now you got him at 7. The Bruins got a legitimate top line transformative type of player there, and kind of fell into that type of talent. And if you're the Bruins, you had to be thrilled. And off of, to your point, Evan, where they were on draft lottery of not getting the breaks there to what was a shitty ass year. And I'm not saying like, would you go through that shitty ass year again, knowing that you get James Hagens, but
Horrendous for Hagens.
yeah, sure makes it. If you pitch someone back in like September, like, hey, the Bruins are going to suck this year. They're going to have a 5th worst record in the league, but they'll get James Hagens. You'd be like, oh, he's going number 1. Like, that's not happening. Like, so I'm just going to be fucking miserable. I'm not saying you go through the whole thing again, but to come out of this year where everything's gone wrong, injuries, you lose Brad Marchand, a lot of players, wasn't fun. We didn't have fun this year on the podcast, I would say.
No, we didn't have any fun.
But to come out of it with a guy like Hagens maybe eases the sting a little bit off of this year. If you're able to, if this is your one bottom out year, and instead of taking a project or you finish and you get like a winger or someone like that helps you out, but isn't maybe a foundational piece, you have that potential there with a guy like Hagens. It's the best case scenario for the Bruins for where they were in the draft.
100%. And it can't be said enough. I want to raise another interesting point. And I wish I could say this was my own point, but it isn't. Casey Mutrin made this point to me on Saturday. I was at Teddy Mutrin's house for his draft and to see what it was like behind the scenes. He got picked in the 3rd round.
Congratulations to Teddy.
To him, 95th overall by the Sharks and other mass guys going to San Jose. But Casey made a great point to me. Casey is a rising kid on the U18 NTDP team next year, BC commit, and likely a 1st-round pick next year. Yeah. But Casey made a great point to me saying that, everybody compares Hagens to like Will Smith's year. Will Smith had like 80-something points. It was absurd.
Yeah.
But not to take anything away from Will Smith wasn't really their top center. It was Cutter Gauthier. Cutter Gauthier's line got all the hard matchups. Cutter Gauthier was their number 1 line, and it allowed that freshman line of Perreault, Leonard, and Smith.
It was a cheat code line, essentially.
It was a cheat code, but to cook against other teams, sometimes second line centers, second pairing D, all those things. And of course, those guys are going to cook those guys. And so the whole point is like Hagens was their number 1 center this year. There was no insulating James Hagens. Yes, he had phenomenal line mates in Perreault and Leonard, but he also was getting every team's toughest matchup every single night as a kid who began the year as a 17-year-old.
17-year-old, yeah.
So, like, to me, that's one of the biggest things is, like, I do think there's context to add when people are like, well, he didn't have the same year as Celebrini or Smith or Leonard or Fantilli a couple of years ago. So I keep going back to that with Hagens. And I said this on the live stream the other night. I'll repeat it for those who haven't heard it. Um, I'm not comparing them at all, but like Cale Makar was not this fantastic defenseman his freshman year at UMass. I think he had 21 points in 34 or 37 games. He was good, but not
Very
like
good. Yes.
not a world beater.
Transformative. Yeah.
Yeah, but like he became all world Hobie Baker, like the Cale Makar that you all know now in his second year. Like 2 years of college does people a ton of good. And so I do think, obviously, is James Hagens going to be Cale Makar this year? That's an unfair thing to put on a kid. But I would expect a similar type impact, a jump in production and all those different things this year. And I think it's kind of unclear because, draft night, Hagens was kind of saying, whatever they think, I'll talk with the coaching staff, blah, blah, blah. I think he's back.
I think he's going to BC again next year.
He's going back to BC. And that's what he should do. And that's the right thing. There's no rush. There is absolutely no rush. He's already playing against older kids right now. Give it another year. And I think you're probably going to get him sooner. Like, is that at the end of next year? Is it the year after? Like, does he spend any time in Providence? I don't know. But I think what can be looked at with pretty good certainty is that he is going to have a really good season this year in college. And you said it. Like, I think NHL teams are going to be like, damn, like we overthought this. And I think that's why that 7th pick was so perfect, though, Connor, is like, if you were 3rd or 4th, would people have said, oh, that's a reach? This kid's stock is falling, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think it would have been a reach. I think a lot of draft experts had Hagens ranked 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
But at 7, it's like, oh, it's perfect. Because even if this Hagens pick doesn't work out, like down the road, obviously, yes, we'll second guess it. Like if Jake O'Brien has an incredible career or Roger McQueen, we'll sit here and be like, yeah, of course, like you should have picked those guys. But I also think there's an acknowledgement of like, well, Hagens was widely agreed as like the best guy available at 7. And you could go back to every draft grade thing. And it's not going to be like 2015 where it's like, oh my God, Matt Barzal was sitting right there and Kyle Connor was sitting right there. It's like, no, you took the best guy. Like you not to say you're not going to get criticized. You will if it doesn't work out, and you should. But it's not to that extent if this doesn't hit because he was the best available.
Yeah, I feel like that's also why I think you're seeing a lot of not just Bruins fans excited about the pick, but I think a lot of the national prospect guys looking at how the Bruins did, because like the way the draft board fell, you insulated yourself from a lot of criticism in terms of just how it was there, right? You didn't pass on one of the guys who was considered kind of in that tier below Misa, like the Desnoyers or Frondell, right? They went 3 and 4, so you didn't have to worry about like overlooking those types of players. Brady Martin was a guy that was a high riser that, like, let's say you had to pick between those two players, you'd have that conversation, right, of like floor ceiling that we've had multiple times between those types of players. He was off the board, didn't have to worry about that. And then you could make the case that like if Martone and Hagens are both there for the Bruins, like Martone has been a really highly rated player, but he's also a wing. But you could have that case too of, did you take the best player available or the guy you really like that fits the area of need? You didn't have that conversation as well either. So it ends up being like, do you take Hagens, who even with his weaknesses, whatever you want to call it, was widely considered to be in that group with like the Desnoyers and Frondells, right? That maybe tier below Misa, if you want to say that's what it was. Do you take that guy or do you take Jake O'Brien, who really good player? I really like Jake O'Brien, but was not, I think, in the same tier as Hagens, or McQueen, who's got the injury risk. Like,
agreed.
You take Hagens, right? I feel like it's almost like what else is the best option there, as opposed to, let's say, if Martin or Martone or one of the Desnoyers or Frondells was there. Like, it was on a silver platter for the Bruins in terms of best player available right there for the need that they needed.
Well, I got nervous when the clock was ticking down, and I was like, maybe they're listening to offers from the Islanders, but like, are they having a real debate about this? Like, this shouldn't be a debate. Like, should be Hagens. And obviously they end up taking James Hagens. Other parts of the draft, so the rest of the draft, they take Will Moore with the 51st pick in the second round. They take defenseman Liam Pettersson, 61 in the second round. They take Cooper Simpson, 79th in the third round. Vashek Blanar, I hope I'm saying that right, 100th pick in the fourth round.
No one knows who that man is.
I was saying, like, no one could figure out who that was.
Even Don Sweeney was cracking jokes yesterday. He was like, yeah, you guys couldn't find him on Elite Prospects. I'm like, yeah, we couldn't.
It took me a second.
He's got two names, Don.
Yeah, it doesn't come up. Cole Chandler in the 5th round, 133rd, and then Kirill Yemelayanov, I hope I'm saying that right, 165th in the 6th round. I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about a lot of those guys, but Will Moore is an interesting one. BC two-way center coming out of the national program. That seems like a good pick. I know it's another BC guy, so like now they have like 6 guys on that BC team, which is crazy. That sucks for you.
When they go to BU and get their ass kicked, I'll go watch them.
You'll feel good. You'll feel good. Yeah. BU's got 8 was it 8 draft picks by BU?
8 draft picks. Yep.
That's craziness.
That decor is terrifying.
Oh my God.
That's our BU minute.
We'll spend more time
very sad. I am very sad that not to go off on a tangent here, but it was unfortunate they weren't able to get one of those. There was a run on those big-bodied right shot defensemen right before they picked that. I really liked Amico. It's funny, a lot of people were telling me that he was going to be a 3rd round pick. Wrong. I didn't watch enough footage, but good job, everyone. Check your tape. But but yeah, the fact they weren't able to get one of those guys, someone like Amico, was unfortunate, but does feel like they were leaning heavily on high upside this year, and it's even something that Ryan Nadeau said, right, where in years past they were looking more at high floor. Whereas I think now, where you're just trying to get as much talent as possible, you might run the risk of these guys not developing. Like, I think Pettersson's a project. I think especially Blenar is a project of what he could be. But I think you look at where he is, like a 6'4" left shot playmaking D that could really fill out too, like a big body. There's upside there that you see what you have. I'd rather you flame out on a guy like that you hope could be a top 4 defenseman as opposed to a guy you're like, well, he's a safe pick, but he's a 4th line player. So I do like that they kind of changed that approach this year of you got to take some swings. You got all this draft capital. You're keeping some of it. See what you have with those types of players.
Even like Simpson, like lit up Minnesota high school hockey last year. But then, like, and this is what scouts love, went to Tri-City, scored 7 goals in 9 games.
Killed it.
Like, all right, he can do that at a higher level. We'll take him. So again, like Cooper Simpson's another one that all these national experts are like, oh, that's a good pick. So yeah, draft was certainly interesting. I think Corey Pronman wrote this. I agree with it. This draft class will come down to what does Hagens turn into? How good does he end up being? And if he's fantastic, then it's like, oh, that 2025 class was crazy. I think as of right now, they get an A for this draft. I do. Like, it's an A minus. Like, and you could say it's it was them or it was just luck that they stumble upon Hagens, but they still got James Hagens. Either way, they got James Hagens at 7. And then the rest, we'll see what ends up being with those guys. First, though, before we get into free agency, which is Tuesday, I feel like we've been so focused on the draft that free agency has sort of fallen by the wayside. Our friends who never fall by the wayside, Prizepicks. Prizepicks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. On Prizepicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, hockey, esports, and much, much more. Baseball is the thing right now. I keep saying it. Make it interesting. Make it fun. Prizepicks helps you do that with player projections. The app is so easy to use. To create a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your money. So, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. Run your game over at Prizepicks. Free agency. You know where I want to start, Connor, with free agency?
What's that?
People say, "Oh, you want to start with Ehlers? You want to start with Besser, Ekblad?" No, I don't. I don't want to start there. We'll get there at some point. What I want to get to is Brad Marchand, who I kind of wrote off. I was like, he's not coming back. He ain't coming back, and I still don't think he actually comes back. But Pierre LeBrun tweeted on Sunday morning, as we wait to see Brad Marchand's decision with Florida, several teams, including Boston and Toronto, hope to talk to him come Tuesday when the market opens if he doesn't re-sign with the Cup champs. The Bruins would certainly be open to bringing him back, but again, perhaps Marchand re-signs in Florida. Now, I don't know what they end up doing. They still have Ekblad to pay. They did just pay, the Panthers did just pay Sam Bennett 8 times 8. I'm still a no on Marchand, and I know that that's heartbreaking to hear, and yes, it would be nice to see him come back, but I just think there's so many things there. I think he's more of a great middle six guy at this point in his career. And coming back here, he's your top or second line left wing, and you're relying on him quite a bit. But I also think there's the whole, like, are you giving him the C back? Like, he did just go win a cup with Florida, which, like, good for him. That's terrific. But I just think it's a new era. It's a new era. It's time to move on. Leave it there. He'll always be a Bruin, retire number 63, all those different things. But I just don't think it's a fit. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to what does Marchand want at this stage of his career? Does now that he's won a cup, is he just wants to come back and has the security of being back here, where obviously his family is for right now and all that kind of stuff. But is he going to make a concession? Because I feel like, to your point, like I think the Bruins would love to have him back. Everyone would love to have Marchand back. He's a great dude,
Yes, it'd be a
still
fun
a great
story.
player. But like, if he's doing that, I have to imagine he's making a concession of literally the same exact thing that prompted the Bruins to trade him, which is taking probably a below market deal. Like, I don't feel like you're going to see a scenario, barring the Bruins being desperate to having a scoring wing, and they whiff on Ehlers and Besser and even the next wave of guys like Mangiapane and these guys, and they can't get a trade. Like if they can't get any one of those types of players, maybe they like circle back. But like, I can't see the Bruins being the team that gives him 4x8, right? Nor do I think should you give that player that to, again, be a top line player, and that's not what he should be. Like, I mentioned this to Ty, like in a perfect world, it's like you have a left wing that you're able to sign or acquire. If you traded for Jason Robertson or you sign Nikolaj Ehlers, and you have a guy like that in place, and you got Morgan Geekie on the left side on a line, and Marchand's like your third line winger, and he wants to just come back and you sign him by a 3x3 deal, that'd be awesome. That'd be perfect. He would feast in that role. But almost, I'm not in fantasy land. Like,
correct.
That's not what you have right now. So if the Bruins are able, if Marchand, I think the Bruins would love to have Marchand back. If Marchand wants to make the concessions with that contract, then I think the door's open. But after taking all these below market value deals and bumping his salary up to an insane level off of that playoff run, I'm not going to begrudge the guy for going and getting the bag somewhere else, because a lot of teams would want him. So it all comes down to, I think, what Marchand wants. And I don't know. I feel like unless he really wants to take a below market value deal, I don't see the Bruins being like, all right, please bear with us, but like $6 million a year. I'm like, I still don't want to give like $6 million to a player when you're still looking at like the long-term sustainability of this team, barring you just can't sign anyone. So I don't know. Like, would it surprise me if on Tuesday, Evan, if we're at the Warrior and all of a sudden at 12:01, we get a little like GIF of Marchand, like with a little winky face, like the Bruins tweeted out? No, like, wouldn't
and we're all
surprise
screwed because we've all been saying for months, like, nah, I don't have him back. Like, he would,
Yeah.
he would not forget that.
Right. But yeah, dude, I wrote like a nice like column, like what a career Marchand's had. I got to delete that shit if that was to happen. But it would be very funny. But I think barring Marchand taking less money, I just don't see it being a fit in terms of the Bruins' long-term vision. It'd be great having him back, but if he's 2 years down the road and you've got James Hagens here and you're trying to build around him, and by that point with the salary cap, like all these other contracts you sign long-term are looking better and better, do you still want Marchand making $8 million 2 years down the road, right? Like, that's where it comes down. If he wants to sign for 3x3 or something like that, hell yeah. Especially if you're able to add more talent, he can be in a better spot for where he is at this stage of his career. But I don't know if the Bruins can pull that off, and whether or not Marchand wants to take that after being more than due to get paid, especially after what he did this playoff run.
Yeah, dude deserves to get paid. The other thing is, like, so the Athletics contract projection had him at like 2 years, 5.093 AAV, but then they write in their latest free agent big board, expect his next deal to land in the $8 million range on a 4-year term, according to league sources. So if he's 4 times 8.1, that isn't where you're at. That's where the Maple Leafs are at, where it's like, we need to win now. This guy's going to help us. We're going to pay whatever. Tavares took a team-friendly deal. Let's go. Let's send the house at Marchand. Is the kind of guy.
Claude Giroux just re-signed with Ottawa too. So all these veteran guys are,
Or maybe Marchand says, I want to stay in Florida, which, like, that would not shock me in the slightest. So I don't think the Bruins thing is reasonable. My guess is that they probably have a cordial meeting to just kind of discuss it because they have such a long history. But to actually make that happen, I don't see it happening. And I don't think it's the right move for the Bruins. I don't. I know fans want him back. I completely get it. Like it's a fun story, and Marchand's fun to root for, but it's not where they're at. Where they're at is yeah. Well, where they're at is
sorry.
they have their core. They're drafting around it. They're not. The other thing is, does Marchand care about cup contention? They're not a cup contender right now. They're contending for a playoff spot, but I wouldn't be like, oh, the Bruins are like the 7th best odds for the cup next year. Like that's just not the case. And does he want to go through that? So I don't see it. I just don't. I don't think it's the right move. In terms of other free agents, obviously there are still some big fish out there. Marner seems like he's headed to Vegas. That seems like a mess. That situation, like Toronto being like, give us someone or we are going to report you, is pretty incredible.
We're going to call the police.
It's like that that if you've seen Gibby from iCarly, it's like him turning around being like, what are you, a cop?
No,
like
no, I have not.
Do you even ever watch iCarly?
That's a generation or two after me.
Oh,
so
man.
I didn't even make it to like the Drake and Josh days, man. I was like SpongeBob, and then like season 1 of Drake and Josh, and then went right from that to The Sopranos. So
you jumped up quick.
Went from that to like Frank Sabatka fighting with like the dock workers in Baltimore.
The Greeks.
And immediately jumped up from there. Yeah.
You saw Frank Sabatka like, pop up in a river dead.
Yeah.
Like 1 year after watching like, Josh get sprayed with like the soda gun at the movie theater.
Yeah.
You miss out. Drake and Josh, iCarly, like Sweet Life, like that was a goated cinema. Honest to God, like cinema era of children's television. My mom even still, like if Drake and Josh is on TV, like she'll watch. Like she's like, I genuinely love that show.
I think it's like SpongeBob, man. It's like people appreciate it. Yeah.
Tough history, but didn't age great for other reasons. But great show.
Yes.
Great show.
This is our Nickelodeon minute.
That's right. Sorry, guys. There's nothing going on, so why not take Nickelodeon? There are other big fish, obviously, with the free agency. Sam Bennett's off the board, but like Aaron Ekblad on the right, like what is he getting? Nikolaj Ehlers at left wing, Brock Besser at right wing. I would say those are probably the three that like I wouldn't be shocked if the Bruins got one of them. They're all going to be costly. Again, the Athletic has Ekblad at 7 times 7.8. You can probably up that to 8 million.
I feel like he's gonna get like 9 million.
Maybe he does. So again, like, do you want to pay him 9 million a year for 7 years? He is 29. So then you have Nikolaj Ehlers. Their contract projection for him is 6 times 8.1, but like he feels like he's gonna be like 9, especially with the cap going up and stuff. And then Besser, their projection 6 years times 8.4. Could that be 9? Like, so okay, let's just say, like, are you giving 9 million?
I think all three of those guys could get 9 million.
So
I think it's safe to assume that.
Would you give any of them 9 million a year? And I keep coming back to like, I don't know. Ehlers, you do need help at left wing. You don't have a lot of people on that left side. So like, I could probably get down with that. Ekblad, that seems like a lot of money. And he's had some injury history too, right? So like,
he's ripped too. So
he's what?
He's ripped.
So. Jacked. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That came out of left field.
Yoked. I would say like out of those three, I think the one you would be most comfortable giving 9 million to is Ehlers, but I just don't think he's going to come here. I think especially if Marner's off the board, he's already got his gigantic house in Henderson that he's going to be loaded up for. Also, good to see a team like Vegas finally get a star or two, have something go their way.
They never do. They never do.
Yeah. But if he's he's never leaving. I feel like people should just stop that now. Just what it's going to be, guys. I'm sorry. I think if Ehlers is the top dog, like someone's probably going to give him like 10 million at that point. Some team's going to be desperate for it. There's all these teams that want Marner, and he's probably the next best option. I would give him 9 million if I'm the Bruins, but I just don't know if you're going to win that bidding war. I think it's going to get pretty wacky there. And then it comes down to either Ekblad or Besser. If I'm giving one of those guys 9 million, I'm giving to Ekblad because like that's a lot of money. I get it, but like let's say what is a standard year for both those players at this time of their careers? Like Besser, you hope he could be a 30 goal guy, but I'm gonna say like a reasonable year for him is like 24 goals and 51 points, which like
Agreed.
you could use the 24 goals and he'd help you out on the power play probably, but not for 9 million, right? Whereas what's like a
Mhm.
reasonable year now for Ekblad? Not the 24-minute guy he was in his prime years with Florida, but he's a 20-minute guy with 25 to 30 points on the blue line and locks up your top four. I'd sign that guy. And I think
And
like
he helps us strength. Like if you're going to be a defense and
yes,
goaltending team these next couple of years, that bolsters
yeah.
that.
And especially where like the Bruins have also talked about having like more vocal leadership and having that. It's something that they missed this past year after bringing all these veteran guys. A guy who's been part of the leadership group in Florida. He's been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, played his ass off this past year, too. He was a beast in that playoff run. I think that the money would go further there. And I think Bruins fans have to accept there's going to be a lot of sticker shock. But I also think the Bruins have to be aggressive this offseason, not just for the fact that you're trying to add talent, you're trying to get back and being a somewhat competitive group this year, but also like I'd rather give up money now because the money is going to get better and better and better moving forward. Like even you look at Elias Lindholm and Zadorov, like in 2-3 years, if the cap's jumping up to like 120 million in 2 years, what Elias Lindholm's costing you now, the equivalent to that in like 2-3 years is like 4.5 million, which is
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
Like Nikita Zadorov signed for a long time, but he's going to make an equivalent of like a $3 million contract,
Yeah.
like in a couple of years. So like,
Yeah.
if you sign Ekblad right now to like 8.5, 9 million, not saying it's going to be a great contract, but the burden of it lessens. Like that's why like I think the Bruins have to be aggressive, whether it's bringing in a guy like that. If you're looking on the trade market and you're trying to get Rasmus Anderson as your right shot D and you give him a contract, sign him now because it's going to get better over time. If Vegas is trying to free up money to bring in Marner and Hurdle's out there, and like Hurdle's a great top 6 player, 31, signed for another 4 years at 8.1 million. I don't know, but in 2-3 years, if he's 33 and he's your second line center, and he's all of a sudden his contract the equivalent is 6 million. Okay, I think right now you have to find ways. I'm not saying you have to spend to the cap, because I think you want flexibility, especially when the cap jumps up to be in that spot to take advantage of whatever opportunities do present themselves. But I think you need to find 2 or 3 guys that you can bring in that you can sign to contracts that you think can help you out in the next couple of years. Because if you give the money to them now, it's going to look better and better moving forward. So I think that also has to be a factor in it of just taking advantage of the cap as it's jumping up now. Because where it is right now, it's already going to be a lot of sticker shock. But look 2-3 years down the road of where you're going to be. It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be insane. And that's the thing. And like, I mean, I even wrote down like Lindholm, McAvoy, Zadorov, Ekblad, Lowry, Peak in front of Swayman. Like, that's not bad. That's not bad.
But what Ekblad
Now,
would be is a second pairing guy. Like, and again, he's not the 24-minute guy, but if he's 20 minutes and does his job that way, I can see it, I think is how I would view
yeah,
it.
I'm not like stoked, but I can get behind it. Besser to me feels like a guy who's getting overpaid. And that worries me in terms of what he's going to be. Now, you can make the case if Hagens comes up at the end of next year, and let's say you can pencil Hagens in for like 26, 27, you do want to put him with good wings. Pastrnak is there. You know, Lindholm's probably moving down, or like, you know, Lindholm's moving to a different line with different line mates, whether you want to say Hagens is a first line guy or what. It's so crazy to say like James Hagens is on this team. It's insane. Yeah. But like you do want to have good wingers around them. I still think you probably wait. Maybe it's a trade. Maybe it's development. I don't know who that would be. Maybe it's next year's free agency class. I don't know. But at Besser, I'm worried about giving $9 million to. I am. I just am. And you're right in that now that Marner's off the board, there are teams way more desperate. Utah, Anaheim, who have way more cap space. Columbus, who can just chuck it out there, give a ton of money, and have them come to them. So, and then you also have Sweeney the other day kind of alluding to the trade market more than free agency. Now, they do have needs on this roster. Like they only have a few guys actually under contract. But like I do wonder if they look more at the trading market than they do free agency. And on July 1 and in the days after, it's more small signings, filling out your third line or an extra D than it is, you know, a top guy.
It does feel like there's going to be another shoe that hasn't dropped. And I usually like before free agency, I try to like do like a story of like value adds or like guys that they can target. But I feel like I'm not going to do it this year because I know they want to add talent, but how are they going to do it or what's the best way forward? I couldn't tell you. Like I feel like they're going to look at the trades first, and if you're able to bring in like you know, you trade one of your future first that you have from Toronto or Florida for like Rasmus Anderson. You're gonna need more than that. But like if you shore up the right side of your defense that way, it starts falling into place. If you try to find a wing that's out there or a center, if it's like Hurdle or someone else equivalent to that, things start falling into place where you all of a sudden you don't have to, it's not Besser or Ehlers or bust, where you're like, well, we have to give this $9 million a year to this type of player. And instead, if you're able to bring in a guy that way and you then try to find like a third line winger or someone else like that to fill the roster, makes a little bit more sense. But it feels like there is another shoe to drop there. And it feels like a trade is going to be what sets the tone as to what they want to do this offseason. But who is that player and what they're doing? It feels like they're leaving no stone unturned in that regard.
You know who'd be a good little value add in free agency that I wouldn't hate? Nick Perbix, right shot defenseman from Tampa. I think he's like 26.
Big dude, 6'4", I
Big
think.
dude. Yes, 6'4". Um, like I like him. Like I liked him in college, but I've also just liked what he brought in the NHL. Maybe he sticks, maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but like I don't think he's gonna break the bank. So like that would to me would be like a value add, a guy you're adding to
Yeah.
your decor, seeing what you can get. He's younger. Um, I agree with you. I think there probably is something else. Felt like Zaka might get dealt at the draft, like the way that
As soon as
things
Eklund
are trending.
dropped, I was like, are they going to trade 15 for Eklund? Which like I really like Zaka, and I would not just trade him for the sake of trading him. I think he's a really valuable piece. But I was like, I might give him up for Eklund if he's right there because
Ekblad
Eklund I
is
think is a
good.
great player. Islanders, as
Islanders.
much as people crapped on them for like not being able to telling everyone, they told every single person in Los Angeles. They went from Mulholland Drive down to Santa Monica, telling every single person they wanted to trade for James Hagens, which then ruined their leverage. But even though they weren't able to get him, which was very funny, they crushed like their picks. Like getting him and Aitchison back to back with 16 and 17 on top of Schaefer, who like I feel like everyone in the NHL is rooting for. Great player, great kid. They got like a transformative draft in terms of how much value they add, especially even further down. Islanders crushed it, which is too bad because I think that's a boring ass team. They're like the Kraken of the East.
They are. They're a boring ass team. I agree with you, but I was very happy. Schaefer getting drafted was an incredible moment for his mom, like kissing the ribbon and stuff and getting emotional. That was a really, really incredible moment. So again, everyone it feels like everyone's kind of in agreement. The Islanders like killed it in the NHL draft, like
Yeah.
especially with their first round picks. I can't speak to the rest of their draft, but so yeah, I mean, free agency in general, I don't expect the Bruins to be like heavy getting the big guys, but getting one of Ehlers, Besser, or Ekblad, I wouldn't be shocked with. Ehlers probably makes the most sense. Ekblad, I'm okay with. Besser's where you start to lose me. It's like,
I feel like Besser is the most likely guy to sign.
I
Wouldn't you
know,
think?
I know, I know.
So
So that
it
that
feels like
worries me a little bit.
it feels like there's a shoe to drop, whether it's a trade or something else. Like I think
It'll
that's
be it'll
the
be Marchand. That'll be the shoe. Before we touch on Dev Camp real quick, make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube for all our great content coming this week, next week, the coming weeks. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to go check out all of CLNS's great stuff. Patriots Press Pass, Celtics All Access. Subscribe to their YouTubes as well. And if you want to leave us a nice review, like the video, maybe subscribe to the Bruins Ringside YouTube channel. Wouldn't kill us, and it wouldn't kill you either. So it would be nice if you could do all of that. Dev Camp, real quick. It's a tough for Dev Camp because it always falls the week of free agency. So one
of
day
course.
always gets completely overshadowed. All eyes will be on Hagens. I don't think that's like we've touched on Hagens enough. I'm not going to break down what he needs to do in Dev Camp or anything. I think a lot of eyes will be on Letourneau. A good one to watch those Zellers. Like Will
Yeah.
Zellers had a phenomenal year in the USHL. Came to in the Charlie Coyle trade, which looks better and better by the day. Coyle got traded to Columbus. Who are you watching this week? Who are you curious about?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, beyond the obvious, like the Hagens, the Laternos, yeah, I agree that Zellers is a guy that, if for a Bruins team that is so desperate to have high end skill and finishing talent, you saw what Zellers did in the USHL. That's a guy that I think Bruins fans would be keenly watching moving forward, especially if that guy like has like a 20-goal season at UND. You feel like he really got something there. So I think he's definitely got to watch for. And then also, like, I think some of these guys from these last 2, 3 drafts that, second, third round, fourth round picks that maybe fly under the radar, just seeing what their ceiling could be or what their projections are in the NHL. So I look at like Elliot Gronwald, Chris Pelosi, who had a good year at Quinnipiac. Some of these guys that now that I feel like Hagens is there, everyone kind of gets pushed down a little bit as to like who
Yes,
they're
a little
looking
less
at, like
pressure on
Hagens
everybody.
more. But I feel like, if one of those guys can hit, right? Like if like Pelosi can be like a third line wing down the road or something like that, keeping tabs on those types of players as well. And if you can find some value with these last couple of drafts, I think be watching some of those players because I feel like they are going to go under the radar moving forward.
Pelosi and Grenwald are great ones because those got like those. Grenwald to me is always projected as a very stable left shot defenseman in the NHL, of a guy who like, is he your like number one left shot defenseman? No, but he's 2 or 3, killing penalties, eating minutes, like
Like a
rangy.
like a Lozon kind of like maybe not as
Kinda,
physical,
yeah.
but yeah,
Yes, better
yeah.
stick. Like I could absolutely see it. And Pelosi's another awesome one. Like, is he a good depth center for you at some point? Like, and that's the other thing now. Now that you have Hagens and even like a Will Moore,
Yeah.
you nailed it. Everybody gets pushed down a little bit. There's not as much stress on a guy like Pelosi to pan out and to be,
Or
a
Laterno.
everyday. Or
Or
Laterno, that's the other big one. And he's gonna be the focus, I think a big focus of this weekend. There's not as much pressure on him now. There's still pressure, don't get me wrong. Um Bruins have like every BC center. It's
it's crazy.
crazy.
It's nuts.
Insane.
I'm
It is
dying over
insane.
here, Evan.
I know. They got to get a couple BU
If
guys at
only
some
they
point. It
got
used to be the place for BU.
I know. If they got like a Miko out of it, I'd be thrilled, but alas.
Thrilled.
Philly actually got it.
Thrilled.
Philly got a crop. Everyone they drafted was like 6'4" or above.
What a crop. And also
Yes.
they picked Amico and was it Murtaugh like right after?
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
getting all the NTDP kids and just putting them on
Yeah.
the Flyers. So that was pretty funny too. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over at theglobeandboston.com. We have you covered every step of the way this week, whether it's dev camp, free agency, trades, office sheets, all that stuff. We've covered every step of the way this season, this week, this offseason, all that stuff. So please read my stuff over at boston.com and the Boston Globe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Connor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.